The stars looked different from the bridge of the UNS Defiance. Captain Jake Morrison stood with his hands behind his back, watching the endless darkness through the main view screen. The ship moved silently through space, cutting through the void like a knife through water. Jake had been staring at these same stars for 3 months now, and each day brought them closer to answers he wasn't sure he wanted to find. The bridge hummed with quiet activity. Commander Lisa Hayes sat at her station, fingers dancing across the control panel as she monitored long-range sensors. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail, and her brown eyes never left the displays in front of her. She had been Jake's second-in-command for 2 years, and he trusted her completely. Lisa was smart, careful, and never missed anything important. Lieutenant Commander Ben Parker worked at the communications station nearby. His job was to listen for any signals from other ships or space stations. For weeks, he had been picking up strange transmissions in languages that Earth's computers couldn't translate. The messages seemed to be about trade and business, but something about them felt wrong to Ben. He couldn't explain why, but his gut told him there were secrets hidden in those alien voices. Chief Engineer Amy Foster was down in the engine room, 3 decks below the bridge. She loved her job more than anything else in the world. The Defiance was powered by fusion drives that she had helped design back on Earth. The engines were new technology, faster and more powerful than anything humans had built before. Amy knew every bolt and wire in those engines, and she could make them sing when needed. The ship itself was a marvel of human engineering. From the outside, it looked sleek and dangerous, painted in dark gray with sharp edges that caught the starlight. Inside, everything was built for efficiency in combat. The corridors were narrow but well lit, and every surface was covered with displays and controls. The Defiance was not a luxury cruise ship or a peaceful explorer. It was a warship, pure and simple. Jake remembered the day Admiral Kate Sullivan had called him to her office on Earth. She had been sitting behind her desk, looking older than her 50 years. The Admiral's gray hair was short and practical, and her blue eyes held a sadness that Jake had never seen before. She had handed him a data pad with orders that would change everything. The orders were simple but terrifying. Find the missing colony ships. Bring the colonists home. Use any means necessary. Jake had read the list of missing ships 3 times before the reality sank in. 7 colony vessels had left Earth over the past 10 years, each carrying thousands of people looking for new homes among the stars. All 7 ships had simply vanished without sending a single message back to Earth. The first ship to disappear was the New Horizon, carrying 5,000 colonists to a planet called Eden Prime. The ship had sent regular reports for 6 months, describing a beautiful world with clean air and fresh water. Then the messages stopped. Earth had waited 2 years for any word before declaring the ship lost. After that, 6 more colony ships had vanished in the same way. Earth's government had tried to investigate, but their small fleet of exploration ships had found nothing. No wreckage, no distress signals, no clues about what had happened to 30,000 missing people. The colonies had simply ceased to exist, as if they had never been built at all. That's when Admiral Sullivan had decided to send the Defiance, humanity's most advanced warship, to find answers. Jake had handpicked his crew from the best officers in Earth's fleet. Each person on the ship was a specialist, trained for years to handle whatever they might find in deep space. They all knew the mission was dangerous, but none of them had hesitated to volunteer. The missing colonists were their people, their responsibility, and they would not abandon them. Dr. Rachel Torres worked in the intelligence section, analyzing every piece of data they collected. She was a small woman with sharp green eyes and a mind like a computer. Rachel could look at seemingly random information and find patterns that others missed. For weeks, she had been studying the alien transmissions that Ben intercepted, slowly building a picture of what lay ahead. What Rachel had discovered was both fascinating and disturbing. The signals came from something called the Galactic Trade Council, a group of alien species that controlled commerce across this part of space. The aliens seemed to think they owned everything, including planets where humans had built colonies. Rachel had found references to primitive species and salvage operations that made her stomach turn. The more she learned about the alien civilization, the more worried Rachel became. These creatures had been traveling between stars for thousands of years, building an empire based on trade and diplomacy. They saw themselves as sophisticated and civilized, far superior to younger species like humanity. The problem was that they treated less advanced races like property rather than people. Jake had spent many sleepless nights reading Rachel's reports. The evidence suggested that the missing colonists hadn't died in accidents or natural disasters. They had been taken, captured by aliens who saw humans as nothing more than exotic animals to be bought and sold. The thought made Jake's blood boil, but he forced himself to stay calm and professional. Anger would not help his people, but careful planning might. The Defiance was approaching a place called Kepler Station, a massive space station that served as a trading post for dozens of alien species. Rachel's intelligence suggested this was where they would find their first real answers about the missing colonies. The station was heavily defended and constantly busy with merchant ships from across the galaxy. Jake knew that approaching Kepler Station would be dangerous. The aliens had never seen a human warship before, and they might react badly to the Defiance's arrival. Earth's diplomats had tried to make contact with alien governments 50 years ago, but those meetings had ended in disaster. The aliens had laughed at humanity's crude technology and primitive culture, dismissing Earth as unworthy of serious attention. That dismissal had been a blessing in disguise. While the aliens ignored Earth, human scientists and engineers had worked frantically to catch up with galactic technology. The Defiance represented 50 years of desperate innovation, built by a species that knew they were alone in a hostile universe. Every system on the ship was designed with one goal in mind: bringing humans home safely. As Jake watched the stars, he thought about the families waiting back on Earth, parents who had sent their children to build new worlds among the stars, husbands and wives separated by impossible distances, children who might never see their parents again. These people were counting on him to succeed, and he would not let them down. The Defiance continued its journey through the darkness, carrying humanity's hopes toward an uncertain future. Kepler Station hung in space like a giant metal flower with dozens of arms reaching out in all directions. The station was huge, bigger than any city on Earth, and covered with lights that blinked in patterns Jake Morrison had never seen before. Ships of all shapes and sizes moved around the station like insects around a bright lamp. Some ships were long and thin, others were round like balls, and a few looked like they had been grown rather than built. Commander Lisa Hayes stared at her sensor displays with wide eyes. She had seen pictures of alien technology before, but seeing it in person was completely different. The energy readings from the station were incredible, showing power levels that Earth's best reactors could barely match. Hundreds of ships moved in perfect coordination, guided by traffic control systems that made Earth spaceports look like children's toys. Lieutenant Commander Ben Parker opened communication channels and immediately heard dozens of different alien voices talking at once. The universal translator struggled to keep up with all the different languages, creating a confusing mix of words about cargo prices, docking fees, and trade permits. Ben adjusted his equipment carefully, trying to pick out individual conversations from the chaos of alien chatter. The Defiance approached the station slowly, its dark hull standing out against the bright colors of the alien ships. Jake had ordered the crew to keep their weapons powered down but ready, hoping to avoid starting a fight before they learned what had happened to the missing colonists. The ship's sensors were recording everything, building a detailed picture of alien technology and capabilities. Station Commander Vextar noticed the human ship immediately. He was a Zeltharian, standing 7 feet tall with skin that looked like blue crystal and forearms that moved independently of each other. Vextar had managed Kepler Station for 20 years, and he prided himself on knowing every ship design in the galaxy. The approaching vessel was completely unknown, built with crude angular lines that offended his artistic sensibilities. Vextar called up the ship's energy signature on his personal display and frowned at what he saw. The readings made no sense according to standard galactic technology. The ship seemed to be powered by controlled nuclear explosions, a primitive and dangerous method that civilized species had abandoned centuries ago. Even worse, the vessel was covered with what appeared to be weapon systems, far more than any reasonable trader would need. The Zeltharian commander felt a mixture of curiosity and disgust as he studied the human ship. Clearly, this was some backward species that had recently discovered space travel, probably hoping to trade raw materials for advanced technology. Vextar had dealt with hundreds of primitive races over the years, and they were all the same: crude, violent, and completely ignorant of proper galactic etiquette. Dr. Rachel Torres worked frantically in her intelligence center, analyzing the flood of data streaming in from the ship's sensors. She had found references to humans in the station's public information networks, but what she was reading made her feel sick to her stomach. According to galactic records, humans were classified as a non-sentient primitive species with no legal rights under galactic law. The classification meant that humans were considered to be intelligent animals rather than actual people. Like rare pets or exotic livestock, they could be captured, bought, and sold without any legal consequences. Rachel found auction records showing human colonists being sold to private collectors across the galaxy, with prices that varied based on age, health, and appearance. Chief Engineer Amy Foster monitored the Defiance's engines as the ship moved closer to the station. She could see alien ships accelerating and maneuvering in ways that should have been impossible, using technology that violated several laws of physics as humans understood them. Amy made careful notes about everything she observed, knowing that Earth scientists would want detailed reports about alien capabilities. The alien ships around Kepler Station began changing their positions as the Defiance approached. What had seemed like random commercial traffic was actually an organized defensive formation, with warships disguised as merchant vessels taking up strategic positions around the station. The aliens were not taking any chances with the unknown human vessel. Jake studied the tactical display showing alien ship positions and felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. The creatures surrounding his ship were not the peaceful traders they pretended to be. These were military vessels with heavy weapons and advanced shielding, more than capable of destroying the Defiance if they chose to attack. Ben Parker received an incoming communication from the station and put it on the main screen. Station Commander Vextar appeared, his crystal blue face arranged in what might have been a smile. When he spoke, his voice was smooth and condescending, like an adult talking to a confused child. The Zeltharian commander welcomed the humans to Kepler Station and politely inquired about their cargo manifest and trading permits. He explained that all ships were required to register with station security and submit to inspection before being allowed to dock. Vextar's tone suggested that he was being extremely patient with these primitive newcomers who clearly did not understand proper galactic procedures. Jake stepped forward and introduced himself as Captain Morrison of the United Nations ship Defiance, representing the government of Earth. He explained that they were searching for missing human colonies and requested permission to examine the station's shipping records. Jake kept his voice calm and professional, but every word was carefully chosen to make it clear that he was not asking for a favor. Vextar's crystal features shifted into an expression of polite confusion. He explained that there were no missing humans, because humans were not considered a spacefaring species under galactic law. Any humans found in this region of space would be classified as escaped livestock or abandoned property, to be returned to their proper owners or sold at public auction. The Zeltharian commander offered to help the primitive humans understand galactic law and suggested that they return to their home planet before they caused any diplomatic incidents. Vextar's tone remained friendly, but his meaning was clear. Humans were not welcome in civilized space and they should leave immediately. Lisa Hayes watched Jake's face carefully as the alien spoke. She could see her captain's jaw tighten and his hands clench into fists, but his expression remained calm and controlled. Jake had expected the aliens to be hostile, but hearing them describe human beings as property still came as a shock. Jake thanked Station Commander Vextar for his explanation and calmly requested access to shipping records for the past 10 years. He mentioned that Earth's government was prepared to pay reasonable fees for information about human colonies in the region. Jake's voice carried no threat, but something in his tone made several alien ship commanders check their weapon systems. Vextar laughed, a sound like breaking glass that made the human crew wince. He explained that primitive species were not allowed access to galactic commercial records, and that Earth had no legal standing to make demands of civilized governments. The Zeltharian commander suggested that the humans should be grateful for his patience and leave before station security was forced to escort them away. The communication ended with Vextar's dismissive gesture, leaving the bridge of the Defiance in complete silence. Jake stared at the blank screen for several seconds before turning to face his crew. Every person on the bridge was looking at him, waiting for orders that would determine whether they lived or died in the next few minutes. Jake Morrison took a deep breath and turned to Dr. Rachel Torres at her intelligence station. He needed to know everything about what the aliens had done to his people before deciding how to respond. Rachel's green eyes were bright with anger as she pulled up the data she had been analyzing for the past hour. Her fingers moved quickly across her control panel, bringing classified alien records onto the main screen. The information that appeared made every person on the bridge feel sick. Rachel had broken into the station's commercial databases and found detailed records of human slave auctions going back 15 years. The files showed photographs of men, women, and children being sold like cattle to alien buyers across the galaxy. Price lists described humans by age, gender, and physical condition, with special categories for skilled workers and breeding stock. Commander Lisa Hayes stared at the auction records with growing horror. She could see familiar faces in some of the photographs, people she recognized from Earth's colonial recruiting programs. A young engineer named Bobby Clark, who had volunteered for the New Horizon mission, was listed as sold to a private collector on the Rim Worlds. A teacher called Mary Johnson had been purchased by a research facility that specialized in studying primitive species behavior. Lieutenant Commander Ben Parker monitored alien communications as word of the human ship spread throughout the station. The conversations he intercepted revealed the true scope of what had been happening to Earth's colonies. Alien merchants discussed upcoming shipments of fresh human cargo, while station security argued about how to handle the unexpected arrival of a human warship. Ben heard Station Commander Vextar talking to his superiors in the Zeltharian government, reporting that a primitive species had somehow acquired military technology and was making unreasonable demands. The Zeltharian officials seemed more annoyed than worried, treating the situation like a minor administrative problem rather than a potential threat to their operations. Dr. Torres discovered shipping manifests that told the complete story of humanity's missing colonies. The alien raids had been carefully planned military operations disguised as salvage missions. Each human settlement had been monitored from space until the aliens were certain they could capture the entire population without resistance. The colonists had been taken during the night while they slept, loaded onto cargo ships like livestock. The records showed that human colonies were considered particularly valuable because humans adapted well to different environments and learned new skills quickly. Adult humans were sold as general laborers, while children were preferred for domestic service and specialized training programs. The aliens had even established breeding facilities on remote planets to ensure a steady supply of human slaves for the galactic market. Rachel found evidence that the raids were not random, criminal activity but official government policy approved by the Galactic Trade Council. The aliens had classified human settlements as abandoned property belonging to no recognized government, making the capture of colonists completely legal under galactic law. Earth's diplomatic attempts to establish formal relations had been deliberately ignored to maintain this profitable fiction. Chief Engineer Amy Foster watched the tactical display as more alien warships moved into position around the Defiance. She counted at least 40 vessels, ranging from small patrol boats to massive battle cruisers that could destroy Earth's entire fleet with their main weapons. Amy knew that her ship was fast and well-armed, but even the Defiance could not fight odds like these and hope to survive. Jake studied the evidence that Rachel had gathered and felt a cold rage building inside his chest. The aliens had not just captured human colonists for profit. They had turned the taking of human slaves into an organized industry with government approval and legal protection. Thousands of innocent people were suffering in alien hands while their captors congratulated themselves on following proper galactic procedures. The captain opened a communication channel to the entire ship and explained the situation to his crew. He told them about the slave auctions, the breeding programs, and the official policies that treated humans like animals rather than people. Jake's voice remained calm and professional, but everyone who heard him could sense the fury burning beneath his controlled exterior. Jake asked for volunteers for what would certainly be a dangerous rescue mission with little chance of success. He explained that they were outnumbered, outgunned, and operating without support from Earth's government. Anyone who wanted to leave could do so without shame or consequences. The captain waited for responses from his crew, knowing that what happened next would determine the fate of thousands of enslaved humans. The response came immediately from every section of the ship. Amy Foster volunteered her engineering team to push the Defiance beyond its design limits. Ben Parker offered to jam alien communications while coordinating rescue operations. Lisa Hayes requested permission to lead boarding parties onto enemy vessels. Dr. Torres promised to identify the locations of human prisoners using the intelligence she had gathered. Similar responses came from every department on the ship, from the medical bay to the weapons control center. Not a single crew member asked to be transferred to safety. These people had volunteered for a mission to find missing colonists, and they were prepared to fight impossible odds to complete that mission. Jake felt proud of his crew and ashamed of the aliens who had forced this confrontation. Station Commander Vextar grew increasingly irritated as the human ship continued to loiter near his station without following proper departure procedures. He had given these primitives clear instructions to leave, but they seemed too stupid to understand simple commands. Vextar decided that a show of force might help the humans appreciate their precarious situation. The Zeltharian commander ordered his security fleet to surround the human vessel and demanded immediate compliance with station regulations. He transmitted standard warnings about unauthorized ships in restricted space, threatening to impound the Defiance if its crew continued to ignore lawful orders from galactic authorities. Jake received the alien ultimatum and looked around his bridge one final time. His crew was ready for battle, their faces grim but determined. The weapons systems were charged and the engines were running at full power. Everything depended on what happened in the next few minutes, and Jake knew that the wrong decision could doom both his crew and the enslaved colonists they had come to rescue. The captain opened a communication channel to Station Commander Vextar and delivered his response in a voice that carried across every frequency in the system. Jake Morrison announced that the United Nations ship Defiance was hereby demanding the immediate release of all human prisoners held in violation of basic rights and dignity. He gave the aliens exactly 1 hour to begin loading human captives onto transport ships for return to Earth. Vextar laughed at the human ultimatum, his crystal features gleaming with amusement. He told Jake that primitive species were not permitted to make demands of civilized governments, and that continued resistance would result in the destruction of the human vessel. The Zeltharian commander cut the communication link and ordered his fleet to prepare for combat against the insolent primitives. The first alien ship fired at the Defiance exactly 58 minutes after Jake Morrison's ultimatum expired. The energy beam struck the human vessel's forward shields and scattered harmlessly into space, barely registering on Amy Foster's power displays. The alien weapons had been designed to disable other trading vessels without causing serious damage, not to fight a ship built specifically for war. Chief Tactical Officer Greg Martinez had been waiting for this moment since they left Earth. His fingers moved across his control panel with practiced precision, bringing the Defiance's weapon systems online in less than 3 seconds. Greg had spent years studying alien ship designs through intercepted data transmissions, and he knew exactly where to hit them for maximum effect. The Defiance's first salvo tore through the alien formation like lightning through a thundercloud. Railguns fired solid metal projectiles at incredible speeds, punching through energy shields that had never been tested against kinetic weapons. Missile launchers released swarms of guided warheads that confused alien defensive systems designed to stop energy attacks rather than physical. Projectiles Commander Lisa Hayes coordinated the ship's movement as it danced between enemy fire. The Defiance twisted and rolled through space with an agility that shocked the alien fleet commanders. They had expected the primitive human vessel to lumber forward in a straight line, presenting an easy target for their superior numbers. Instead, the ship moved like a living thing, striking hard and fast before disappearing behind clouds of defensive chaff. Station Commander Vextar watched his security fleet being torn apart by a single human warship and felt fear creeping into his crystal heart. The primitive vessel was fighting like nothing he had ever seen before, using weapons and tactics that made no sense according to civilized warfare. The humans seemed to have designed their ship for one purpose only: killing other ships as efficiently as possible. The alien commander tried to understand what was happening to his forces. Zeltharian cruisers that should have been able to destroy 10 enemy vessels were being crippled by weapons that ignored their defensive systems. Korthak escorts built for speed and maneuverability were being hunted down by missiles that anticipated their evasive patterns. The human ship was winning a battle that should have been impossible to win. Amy Foster pushed the Defiance's engines beyond their theoretical limits, routing power from non-essential systems to give Greg Martinez the speed he needed for his attack runs. The fusion reactors roared like caged beasts, producing energy levels that made alien sensors scream warnings about dangerous radiation levels. Amy smiled grimly as she watched her beautiful engines perform exactly as designed. Dr. Rachel Torres used the chaos of battle to hack deeper into the station's computer networks, searching for the locations of human prisoners. She found shipping manifests showing recent deliveries of human cargo to various buyers throughout the system. Some of the captives were being held in the station's detention centers, while others had already been transferred to private vessels waiting in the outer system. Lieutenant Commander Ben Parker jammed alien communications while coordinating with Marine Colonel Steve Washington, who was preparing boarding parties to search for human prisoners. Ben's electronic warfare systems created confusion among the alien fleet, making it impossible for them to coordinate their attacks effectively. Ships fired on their own allies by mistake, adding to the chaos surrounding Kepler Station. The battle raged for 14 minutes that felt like hours. The Defiance moved through the alien formation like a shark among minnows, its weapons cutting through enemy shields and armor with mechanical precision. Greg Martinez had turned space combat into a science, calculating firing solutions and movement patterns with a coldness that terrified even his own crew. One by one, alien ships began surrendering as their commanders realized they were facing something completely outside their experience. The humans were not fighting according to the civilized rules of galactic warfare, where battles were supposed to be brief exchanges of energy fire, followed by negotiated surrenders. The Defiance kept fighting until its enemies were either destroyed or completely helpless. Colonel Washington led his Marines onto the first disabled alien vessel through a breach torn by the ship's railguns. The soldiers moved through the alien corridors with practiced efficiency, following blueprints that Rachel had stolen from the station's databases. They found the ship's cargo holds filled with containers marked as livestock, but the sounds coming from inside those metal boxes were unmistakably human. The Marines broke open the first container and found 12 humans huddled together in a space barely large enough for 3 people. The prisoners were thin and dirty, wearing simple gray clothing that marked them as slaves rather than passengers. When they saw the human soldiers, many of them began crying with relief, unable to believe that rescue had finally come. Steve Washington personally freed a young woman who introduced herself as Katie Miller from the New Horizon colony. She had been captured 3 years ago when aliens raided her settlement in the middle of the night. Katie told the colonel about the breeding facilities on distant planets and the auction houses where humans were sold like animals. Her story confirmed everything that Rachel had discovered in the station's records. More Marine teams boarded other disabled alien vessels, finding human prisoners in cargo holds throughout the fleet. The rescue operations continued even as the battle raged around them, with Marines fighting their way through alien ships to reach captive colonists. Each ship they searched revealed more evidence of the systematic enslavement of human beings. Jake Morrison watched the tactical display as the last alien warship powered down its weapons and transmitted a surrender signal. The Defiance had destroyed or disabled 43 enemy vessels without suffering serious damage to its own systems. The impossible battle was over, but the war for human freedom was just beginning. Station Commander Vextar found himself staring at Captain Morrison through a communication link, his crystal features pale with shock and fear. The Zeltharian commander had never imagined that a primitive species could possess such devastating military technology. Everything he thought he knew about galactic power structures had been proven wrong in less than 15 minutes. Jake Morrison's voice was calm, but carried a coldness that made Vextar's skin crawl. The human captain explained that the Defiance had completed its primary mission by locating and rescuing enslaved colonists, but that this was only the beginning of humanity's response to galactic slavery. Other human ships were already being prepared for similar missions. Throughout the galaxy, the captain informed Vextar that humanity would no longer tolerate the enslavement of their people under any circumstances. Every human held captive anywhere in the galaxy would be located and freed, regardless of the cost in alien lives or property. The age of treating humans as livestock was over, and any species that continued such practices would face the same fate as the Kepler Station security fleet. Vexitar tried to protest that the humans were violating galactic law and attacking legitimate commercial operations, but Jake cut him off with a gesture. The human captain explained that Earth recognized no law that permitted slavery and would enforce human rights through military action if necessary. The aliens could either release their human captives voluntarily or have them taken by force. 3 months after the Battle of Kepler Station, the galaxy had changed forever. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood in her office on Earth, reading reports from human rescue missions across dozens of star systems. The walls around her were covered with maps showing the locations of freed human colonies and the positions of Earth's growing fleet. Each red dot on those maps represented thousands of people who had been saved from alien slavery. The Defiance had returned to Earth as a hero ship, its crew decorated for courage beyond the call of duty. Captain Jake Morrison had been promoted to Admiral and given command of Operation Homecoming, the largest military campaign in human history. His mission was simple: find every enslaved human in the galaxy and bring them home, no matter what the cost. Jake stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the UNS Liberation, watching a fleet of 30 human warships prepare for their next mission. Each vessel had been built using technology captured from alien ships, combining human weapons with improved engines and shields. The new ships were faster, stronger, and deadlier than anything the galaxy had seen before. Commander Lisa Hayes had been promoted to captain and given command of her own ship, the UNS Freedom. She was leading a task force to the Outer Rim, where intelligence reports suggested that several human breeding facilities were hidden on remote planets. Lisa's orders were to destroy the facilities and rescue any humans found there, using whatever force was necessary. Dr. Rachel Torres had become the head of Earth's new intelligence division, coordinating information gathering across the galaxy. Her network of agents and computer specialists had identified over 200 locations where humans were being held as slaves. Rachel's teams worked around the clock to plan rescue missions and gather intelligence about alien military capabilities. The rescued colonists from Kepler Station had provided detailed information about the galactic slave trade that shocked even Earth's military leaders. Katie Miller and other survivors described auction houses where humans were sold to the highest bidders, training facilities where children were broken and reshaped into obedient servants, and research stations where human prisoners were used for medical experiments. Chief Engineer Amy Foster had been put in charge of Earth's new shipbuilding program, designing vessels specifically for deep space rescue operations. Her latest creation was a fast assault ship that could penetrate enemy defenses, rescue prisoners, and escape before alien reinforcements arrived. Amy's ships were built for one purpose: bringing humans home safely. The Galactic Trade Council had called emergency sessions to discuss the human threat, but their meetings quickly dissolved into arguments and blame. The Zeltharian Empire demanded immediate military action against Earth, while the Korthak Federation suggested diplomatic negotiations. Other species began questioning whether the slave trade was worth fighting a war against such dangerous opponents. Station Commander Vexitar had been relieved of his command and put on trial for losing an entire fleet to a single human warship. The Zeltharian government was embarrassed by their defeat and desperate to restore their reputation as the galaxy's dominant military power. They began building new warships designed specifically to fight human tactics. But their progress was slow and expensive. News of human victories spread throughout the galaxy faster than government censors could suppress it. Other enslaved species began questioning why they had accepted alien rule for so many centuries. Rebellions broke out on dozens of worlds as primitive species realized that the Galactic Empire could be defeated by sufficient determination and military skill. Lieutenant Commander Ben Parker had been promoted to head Earth's Communications Division, coordinating between rescue fleets and broadcasting messages of hope to enslaved humans throughout the galaxy. Ben's transmissions told captive colonists that Earth had not forgotten them and that help was coming. The broadcasts also served as warnings to alien slavers that their crimes would not go unpunished. Colonel Steve Washington commanded Earth's new Marine Corps, training soldiers for boarding actions and planetary assaults. His men had become legendary throughout the galaxy for their skill at rescuing prisoners from heavily defended alien facilities. Washington's Marines followed a simple code: leave no human behind, regardless of the odds or the cost. The human rescue missions followed a predictable pattern that terrified alien governments. Earth ships would arrive at a slave facility without warning, demanding the immediate release of all human prisoners. When the aliens refused, the humans would attack with overwhelming force, destroying any opposition and freeing their people. The rescued humans were then transported back to Earth or to new colonies protected by human warships. Each successful mission added to Earth's growing reputation as an unstoppable military force. The humans seemed to have unlimited ships, weapons, and soldiers, all dedicated to the single goal of ending slavery. Alien merchants began refusing to deal in human cargo, fearing that Earth's fleets would hunt them down and destroy their operations. Jake Morrison received reports from across the galaxy showing the effects of Operation Homecoming. The slave trade was collapsing as alien buyers realized that purchasing humans meant inviting attack by Earth's military. Several alien governments had begun releasing human prisoners voluntarily, hoping to avoid the fate of Kepler Station's security fleet. The Zeltharian Emperor finally agreed to meet with human representatives to discuss ending the conflict. Jake arrived at the negotiation site aboard the Liberation, accompanied by a fleet that could destroy the Zeltharian homeworld if the talks failed. The Emperor was a proud creature who had never spoken to a member of a primitive species. But the destruction of his fleets had convinced him to make an exception. Jake sat across from the Emperor in a conference room aboard a neutral station, surrounded by diplomats from dozens of alien species. The human admiral's demands were simple: return every human held anywhere in the galaxy, alive and unharmed, or face the consequences. The Emperor tried to negotiate partial releases and compensation payments, but Jake refused to compromise. When the Emperor asked why humans fought so fiercely for people they had never met, Jake's answer became famous throughout the galaxy. The Admiral explained that humans had a simple rule that guided all their actions: they left no one behind. Every human life had value, and Earth would never abandon its people to slavery or death. The negotiations lasted for 3 days before the Emperor finally surrendered. The Galactic Trade Council agreed to classify humans as a fully sentient species with complete legal rights. All human slaves would be returned to Earth within 1 year, and any future enslavement of humans would be considered an act of war against Earth's government. Jake Morrison returned to Earth as the hero who had freed humanity from galactic slavery. The rescued colonists built new settlements under the protection of Earth's growing fleet, while the galaxy learned to fear the red alert that announced the arrival of human warships. The age of human exploitation was over, replaced by a new era where strength and determination mattered more than ancient laws and established hierarchies.